how many times do you always hear like, you need to be on social, you need to be on social, and then what, you're supposed to post 3, 4, some people even tell you to post 10 times a day on Twitter, right? How in the world can you run a business while you're worried about what next 140 characters am I gonna put on Twitter 10 times out of your day? You have more important things to do than constantly worry about social media, and that's where I was. It was like, I'd get up and I knew it was a new day, and it's like, man, what am I gonna, I had to plan out content for the whole week, and be like, okay, well, now I gotta film these videos or write these posts, and now I gotta post them at some time. So it's like, I always felt I was doing double, triple, or quadruple times the work I felt, and it was just really frustrating, right, and defeating.
These posts and videos and different and images that you spend all this time creating, how much traction did they actually get?
None. 2 likes, 3 likes. And I think that was the most frustrating part about it all too. You're putting in all this work and all this time trying to create, and it's just lost in 10 minutes after you post it, technically.
And I think that's one of the major points of this segment, is that creating content can be really soul destroying if you're just doing it and then it disappears. I mean, people can spend half a day on creating a blog post. It gets posted once and then it's gone. They could spend an hour and a half doing an image, it gets posted once and then it's gone. The focus of this case study is to highlight how by changing just the technology you're using or introducing technology into what you do, it can change everything. Now, Jay, you had a whole series of content you'd already created. You're one of those people that already had a lot of stuff built. You had some videos, you had to edit them again, but you had some videos, you had some quote images, you had some blog posts, and you were posting them manually. First, how much strategy was there in that? Because when you rushed and you're putting it together quickly, you can't really think about what the overall message you want to get across is, right?
Exactly. You're lost in the forest, right? You know that you need to be putting out content, you know that you need to be doing this work, but at the same time, it's not getting any results from it. And so then, like you said, it's soul crushing, right? Why am I gonna continue to put this out if it's only getting 1 or 2 likes? And then you start kind of really questioning yourself also. Is this the type of content that people wanna listen to? Is it what they want? And so then you start questioning yourself and you're trying to move all around and change things. It just is defeating.
So I think this is one of the interesting things, because there were a couple of things missing. First, Jay was focusing on posting lots of content, but he had to do it 8 times a day on Twitter or 3 times a day on Facebook, so he would do it in the moment. So we'd like to say he planned his strategy out all week, but really he was in the day going, oh, I've got to post something, okay, I'll post it. Or I've got to create a video, okay, what am I going to do it on today? There was no overall strategy approach, but not only that, when we do things in a batch, we get better and better and better at doing it because we become focused. When we have a laser focus and we focus on our strategy, the outcome is a lot more prevalent because you've got that system to doing things. So what Jay did when he went through and watched the RGA videos on how to create evergreen content is he went back and looked at all the content he already had. He didn't create anything new. He went back and looked at all the content he already had. And Jay, I'll let you tell this story. What was the process of what you did to get it to be evergreen?
Well, what I did is I technically went through and I realized that, man, I have 2, almost 3 years of social posts from long text or short text or images or videos, or sometimes the videos are super long too. So I was able to go in there, edit my videos down to shorter, concise segments, right? To make it more usable also. People can actually take it because they're not like, well, this is a 5-minute video. I don't have time for 5 minutes. So now you can have short, concise, and actionable steps, and you're able to reuse that over and over. People don't get tired of my stuff. They love the variety. I've never had compliments on my social before. But now having the technology and use it where it can post evergreen and just constantly cycles and rotates, now I'm getting more love and more messages because they're saying, look, you're not just speaking on one thing, you're not just in one area, you're actually covering a wide variety of things, and so people are able to consume it more easily.
And I think that's really powerful because what Jay's sharing with you is when he didn't have a strategic approach, he might have done a lot of tweets in the past that were just text, or then he'd do a whole batch of videos, or then he'd do a whole batch of something else, but then it would be one element at a time. Also, there was no overall strategy. So what he did is he went back through all of his content and he shortened the videos. And then he made sure that it was structured. So in all the technologies, you have the ability to set categories. So he's like one video post, then a little bit of text, then an image, so that all forms of learners attract to him and his brand. Also, one of the things you need to know about branding is people need to see your message in many different mediums before they start to trust you. Statistically, it's 3 different mediums beforehand. So a quote image and then a blog post and then a video. Well, now we start to trust him. If he's got videos, one of the other things I liked about Jay's videos is he's got lots of different settings. You'll notice from my videos, sometimes I've got a black background, other times I have a white background, other times it's this setting, other times I'm in a studio. Statistically, people need to have 3 different ways of viewing you in 3 different settings before they start to feel like they can trust you. So the 3 different settings for me is all about getting you to the point where I can start to help you. And I can't help you unless you trust me. Jay did that by accident. He was in a grocery store, he was outside, he was at his home, he did lots of different things, but he also had blog posts and he had imagery that allowed people to develop that relationship with him. Now, for those people that are watching this and saying, well, I don't have much content. I did this back in October of 2014. I had 25 podcast interviews. I had less than 10 blog posts. And I went out and found a load of quote images and I built them all into my social media. No videos at all. I built them into my social media because back then, evergreen posting technology with video, you couldn't find one. I built this in to my strategy in October of 2014. It took me a weekend. By the end of that weekend, it started going, and I got listed as the 43rd most retweeted business coach on Twitter within the space of, it was October and I got listed in November. That's just from that much content. It really wasn't much. Now, sure, Jay, he's always been a hard worker. He did the work. What did he say at the start? Do the work, right? So Jay did the work and he got the return. But these things aren't difficult. A 45-second video, you could do 100 of those in a couple of hours and get them up. And it doesn't matter. He was in a grocery store. It wasn't really difficult to do. He did a few blog posts, a few quotes. You can do this. And when you do, you don't want them to get lost. Up until now, all the work that you've been putting in, if you do it on social media, it gets lost. So the next day, you've always got to come up with new content. For me, in October of 2014, I put this in play. And now it's May of 2017, and I'm finally going to completely refresh it with videos and a whole bunch of different things. But that's been years, and I've not posted anything new on social media, yet I'm still listed as one of the most retweeted people in the world. Everything's liked on Facebook. I generate a phenomenal income through social media. Jay, you just joined me for Small Business Festival, and you've been here since Wednesday. Today's Monday. So this has been, nearly 6 days. In the past, when you had social media as a job, would you have been able to take time off to do this? Or when you were watching the content, would you have been able to enjoy it? Or would you have always been thinking about taking a photo and posting something?
Perfect point right there. I mean, the amount of stress that you put into that and the energy that you put in that, imagine if you can just not do that anymore. And if you could take that step back, and how much more of that energy could you put into something else in order to grow? You know, that's just one more thing solved for you, so you stop wasting your time, energy, and money. I mean, you're not buying I remember walking down the line and being like, do I need to hire a social media expert just because I'm tired of posting 3 or 4 or 5 times a day? It's just getting annoying for me. Do I need to pay somebody to do this? Thankfully, there's technology out there that we don't have to, and you can actually reuse all your stuff over and over again.
What's funny, Jay, is I get a lot of people that have just started that ask me if they need to hire a social media expert, and then they start talking to me about hiring somebody from the Philippines or India to do that. And I'm like, no, it's got to be you, and it's got to be your heart and soul. But it took me a weekend. Now, sure, it took me a couple of weeks to build the content beforehand, but when I built it into this engine, all of my hard work paid off. Because a lot of people will create the content and then it disappears, and they're scared about reusing the content. Well, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, it moves so fast. Instagram moves so fast that people barely get a chance to see it. The likelihood that somebody's going to see it twice just isn't there. So you got the ability to reuse your content to show it to people in a strategic way, in the way that you know they needed to consume it to benefit from that content. Now, you've been here since, Wednesday, last week. Since you've been away, Have people reached out to you to want to work with you because they've seen your content in the last few days?
Of course. It's really surprising, and I think it's because of the algorithms and things like that with your social media now. The more you post, the more active you are, and the people start interacting with even small posts, it just pushes your post more. I remember being here at the Small Business Festival and someone actually commented on me like, you know, Jay, I added you on Instagram. I open it up, and next thing, whoop, there's Jay. Right there, right whenever he opened his Instagram, I'm everywhere.
And that's the important thing. I mean, that's what we call it, right? The be everywhere strategy. And it was quite funny. So Jay and I went out to lunch yesterday, and we were sitting with one of his long-term friends. And he said, Jay, I don't know whether you know this, but I've been stalking you for years on social media. And I saw you posting things, and I went, oh yeah, Jay's trying hard. And then all of a sudden, I was like, wow, Jay's really knocking it out of the park recently. And he said what it was he said all of a sudden it looked like you had all these different modalities you were communicating with me in, and it seemed to be consistent. Because let's face it, if you say I'm going to post every hour, you're not really going to post every hour. I mean, let's say Jay and I are in this video now. If I said I'm going to post every hour, I'm not going to say, sorry, Jay, I've got to get up for a second. I've got to post on my social media. It's not going to happen. You can't be strategic. You can't be consistent unless you have an automated strategy. Now, does that mean you can't post other things? No, it doesn't. I still post things from time to time, but I don't have to worry about it. I remember that I was just telling Jay this story before we started this segment, that when I first started doing this, I set it up in October, and I flew home for Christmas in December. And my father sent me a message that I didn't get until I landed saying, Matt, you're supposed to be on a plane. Stop posting on social media. What are you doing? So I got the opportunity to tell my father, well, this is a strategy that I played. No one can tell the difference.